Hello, fellow seekers of wisdom. Welcome to this exploration of one of humanity's most complex, celebrated, and confounding experiences, love. In the next hour, we'll journey through millennia of philosophical thought about love, examining how brilliant minds have grappled with this fundamental human experience. Love drives our art, our literature, our decisions, both wise and foolish. It's celebrated in our greatest triumphs and mourned in our deepest tragedies. But what exactly is love? Is it an emotion, a choice, a biological imperative, or something transcendent? How have philosophers throughout history understood this profound human experience? Today, we'll trace love's philosophical lineage from ancient Greece to modern thought, exploring how each era has contributed to our understanding. We'll examine different forms of love, from romantic passion to familial bonds, from friendship to universal compassion. Along the way, we'll confront the tensions within love, between desire and virtue, self and other, transience and permanence. So settle in, open your mind, and join me on this journey through the philosophy of love. Our journey begins in ancient Greece with Plato, whose dialogue Symposium remains one of history's most influential texts on love. In this work, various characters at a drinking party deliver speeches praising Eros, the god of love. The most profound speech comes from Socrates, who recounts teachings from a priestess named Diotima. She describes what we now call Plato's ladder of love, a progression from physical attraction to something far more profound. According to this vision, love begins with appreciation for physical beauty in one person. With contemplation, this appreciation evolves to recognize beauty in all physical forms, then in behaviors and knowledge, and finally in beauty itself, the form of beauty which transcends the material world. This isn't merely abstract philosophy, it's a prescription for transformation. In Plato's view, love begins with desire, but evolves into something that connects us to eternal truths. The physical attraction that first draws us to another person can, if properly channeled, become a pathway to wisdom. What's striking about Plato's conception is how love functions as a bridge between the physical and metaphysical realms. Love is educational. It teaches us to recognize value beyond appearance, beyond immediacy, beyond self-interest. While Plato emphasized love's transcendent qualities, his student Aristotle focused more on its place in human relationships. In his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle explores Philia, often translated as friendship, but encompassing a broader range of loving relationships. Aristotle identifies three types of friendship: those based on utility, pleasure, and virtue. The first two are limited and often fleeting. We love others for what they provide us. But virtuous friendship, the highest form, involves loving others for their intrinsic goodness. For Aristotle, this highest friendship occurs between people of equal virtue who wish the best for each other for the other's sake. Such relationships are stable and enduring because they're grounded in character rather than changeable circumstances. What's particularly insightful about Aristotle's conception is how it connects love to ethics. To truly love another person is to want what is good for them, not merely what feels good to us. This introduces notions of responsibility, commitment, and moral development into our understanding of love. As we move forward in ancient thought, we encounter two philosophical schools with contrasting views on love: the Epicureans and Stoics. The Epicureans, followers of Epicurus, sought a tranquil life free from pain. They didn't reject love entirely, but approached it cautiously. Love creates vulnerability. We suffer when our loved ones suffer, and we risk devastating loss. The Epicureans advised moderation in attachments and avoidance of romantic passion, which they saw as a form of harmful madness. The Stoics, meanwhile, distinguished between love as a passionate emotion, which they mistrusted, and love as rational goodwill. Seneca wrote that the wise person loves without craving. For Stoics, genuine love wasn't about possession or passion, but about recognizing another's value and wishing them well, all while maintaining inner tranquility. Both schools highlight something important. Love can be both healing and wounding. It can elevate us or consume us. The philosophical question isn't simply what is love, but how should we love? As we enter the medieval period, Christianity fundamentally reshapes philosophical understandings of love. The Greek term agape becomes central, a selfless, unconditional love modeled after God's love for humanity. Saint Augustine, writing in the 4th and 5th centuries, saw human love as directed either toward God, caritas, or toward worldly things, cupiditas. Only by directing our love toward God could we properly order our other loves. For Augustine, even love of others should be in God, loving them as divine creations rather than for our own satisfaction. Thomas Aquinas further developed this thinking, integrating Aristotelian philosophy with Christian theology. For Aquinas, love is fundamentally about recognizing goodness. We love God because God is the supreme good, and we properly love others by willing their good. This conception of love as self-giving rather than self-satisfying marks a significant evolution. Love isn't primarily about what one feels or receives, but about what one gives. The highest expression of love, in this view, is sacrifice, exemplified by Christ's sacrifice on the cross. Parallel to these religious conceptions, medieval Europe developed elaborate codes of courtly love, typically involving a knight's devotion to a noble lady. These traditions portrayed love as ennobling desire, often unrequited and expressed through service and artistic tribute. This tradition evolved into what we now recognize as romantic love, with its emphasis on emotional intensity, uniqueness of the beloved, and transformative power. Renaissance poets like Petrarch elevated romantic love to a quasi-religious experience, with the beloved approached as something divine. What's fascinating is how these traditions both challenged and complemented religious views. Romantic love borrowed religious language and concepts, but redirected them toward human relationships. The tension between sacred and profane love became a defining feature of Western culture. In medieval Islamic philosophy, figures like Ibn Sina, Avicenna, and Ibn Arabi developed sophisticated theories of love that blended Aristotelian thought with Islamic mysticism. Ibn Sina distinguished between sensual love and intellectual love. The former arises from physical attraction, while the latter comes from recognizing the beloved's inner beauty and perfection. This intellectual love could ultimately lead one toward divine contemplation. Ibn Arabi went further, developing what scholars call a metaphysics of love. For Ibn Arabi, love is the very force that brought the universe into being, God's desire to be known. Human love, in all its forms, reflects this primordial divine love. These traditions remind us that philosophical examinations of love transcend cultural boundaries. Across different societies, thinkers have recognized love's power to connect the physical and metaphysical, the personal and the universal. As we enter the modern era, Jean-Jacques Rousseau and the subsequent Romantic movement transformed conceptions of love. Rousseau emphasized authenticity and natural feeling over social convention. For him, romantic love wasn't just personal preference, but an expression of one's authentic self. The Romantics expanded this view, seeing love as a path to self-realization. In loving another, we discover ourselves. Love becomes not just connection to another person, but connection to truth, beauty, and meaning. This elevation of romantic love had profound cultural consequences. Marriage, previously arranged for economic and social reasons, increasingly became expected to fulfill emotional, spiritual needs. Love became tied to identity, a means of self-expression and self-discovery. Not all modern philosophers were enthusiastic about love. Arthur Schopenhauer famously viewed romantic love as nature's trick. In his view, what we experience as love is actually the will to life operating through us, compelling us toward reproduction with no concern for our individual happiness. Søren Kierkegaard offered a different critique, distinguishing between aesthetic love, based on pleasure and passion, and ethical love, based on commitment and choice. For Kierkegaard, genuine love requires a leap of faith, a commitment beyond rational calculation or fleeting emotion. What both philosophers highlight is love's paradoxical nature. It feels like our most authentic expression, yet often seems to operate through us rather than from us. Is love something we discover, create, or surrender to? With Sigmund Freud, love's philosophical examination took a psychological turn. Freud saw adult romantic attachments as reworkings of childhood relationships, particularly with parents. Our patterns of love and attraction aren't freely chosen, but shaped by unconscious forces. Freud distinguished between the pleasure principle, immediate gratification, and the reality principle, delayed gratification for greater benefits. Mature love, in his view, requires balancing these competing drives, finding pleasure while accommodating reality's constraints. While many of Freud's specific theories have been challenged, his insight that love isn't entirely transparent to ourselves remains influential. We don't fully understand why we love who we love or how we love them. Love emerges from depths beyond our conscious awareness. Existentialism and the freedom to love. Existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir brought questions of freedom and authenticity to the philosophy of love. If we are fundamentally free beings responsible for creating meaning, how does this apply to our loving relationships? Sartre famously described love as conflict, each person trying to possess the other's freedom while preserving their own. For Sartre, the lover wants contradictory things, for the beloved to freely choose them while also being bound to them. De Beauvoir offered a more hopeful vision of authentic love, where both parties recognize each other's freedom and support each other's projects and aspirations. Rather than attempting to possess the other, authentic lovers appreciate each other's autonomy. This existentialist approach acknowledges love's difficulties, but suggests that genuine love is possible when we resist the temptation to control or idealize our partners. One of love's fundamental paradoxes concerns identity. In love, the boundaries between self and other become simultaneously more defined and more permeable. We recognize the other's separateness while also feeling a profound connection. Martin Buber's distinction between I-it and I-thou relationships helps illuminate this paradox. In I-it relationships, we treat others as objects, things to be used or understood. In I-thou relationships, we encounter others in their full subjectivity as beings like ourselves with their own interior worlds. Love at its best is an I-thou relation, where we don't lose our identity but expand it. The beloved becomes part of how we understand ourselves, while remaining irreducibly other. Another paradox concerns love's relationship with time. We promise to love forever, yet both we and our beloveds continuously change. How can love reconcile permanence with transformation? The ancient philosopher Heraclitus observed that no man steps in the same river twice, suggesting that constancy itself is illusory. Applied to love, this raises profound questions. Are we loving the same person today that we loved yesterday? Will we love the same person tomorrow? Some philosophers suggest love involves a commitment to accompanying another through change, rather than expecting them to remain static. Others argue that love perceives something essential about the beloved that persists through change. Either way, love challenges our understanding of identity and time. It asks us to maintain connection amid constant transformation. A third paradox concerns love's relation to reason. Is love an emotion that happens to us or a rational commitment we make? Is it something we feel or something we do? C.S. Lewis in The Four Loves distinguished between gift love, rational, willed giving, and need love, emotional, instinctual receiving. For Lewis, mature love integrates both, neither cold calculation nor blind passion, but a fusion of the two. Contemporary philosopher Martha Nussbaum suggests something similar, arguing that emotions like love involve evaluative judgments. We don't just feel love. We implicitly judge the beloved as worthy of our attention, care, and commitment. This integration of reason and emotion challenges the Western tendency to separate the two. Love isn't irrational, but it does require a broader conception of rationality that encompasses emotional intelligence and evaluative commitment. While romantic love dominates cultural discourse, philosophers have long recognized friendship as a profound form of love. Aristotle considered virtuous friendship humanity's highest relationship, and Cicero wrote that friendship improves happiness and abates misery. What distinguishes friendship from other forms of love? Modern philosophers like Alexander Nehamas suggest that friendship uniquely balances affection with equality. Unlike parent-child love or romantic passion, friendship involves mutual recognition between equals. Friendship also raises interesting questions about choice and recognition. We choose our friends based on who they are, yet friendship also shapes who we become. Our friends both reflect and influence our identities. Family love, what the Greeks called storgia, presents different philosophical questions. Unlike friendship or romance, family relationships typically begin with biological connection rather than choice. How does this origin affect the nature of familial love? Some argue that family love demonstrates love's ability to transcend preference. We love family members not because we've selected them, but because they're connected to us. This suggests love's power to bridge difference and transcend personal taste. Others emphasize how family relationships involve special obligations. The parent-child relationship particularly involves responsibilities that other forms of love may not. This connects family love to questions of care ethics and intergenerational responsibility. Beyond particular relationships lies the concept of universal love, caring for all beings simply because they exist. Various traditions name this differently: agape in Christianity, metta in Buddhism, humanitarianism in secular ethics. Is such universal love possible? Philosophers like Immanuel Kant approach this through moral duty rather than feeling. We should act toward all persons with respect for their inherent dignity, whether or not we feel emotionally connected to them. Others, like Peter Singer, argue that expanding our circle of moral concern is both possible and necessary. By acknowledging the suffering of distant others as morally significant, we develop a more expansive form of love that doesn't depend on personal connection. This universal love relates to questions of moral psychology. How do we extend care beyond our immediate circle? Is love primarily particular, or can it become genuinely universal? As we consider love's philosophical dimensions today, we must acknowledge how technology is transforming intimate relationships. Dating apps algorithmically match potential partners. Social media mediates our connections, and digital communication replaces face-to-face interaction. Philosophers like Sherry Turkle worry these technologies may substitute connection for true intimacy. We're alone together, physically isolated while digitally connected. Others argue technology simply offers new forms of connection, neither better nor worse than traditional ones. This raises profound questions about embodiment and presence. Is physical proximity essential to love? Can digital communication facilitate genuine intimacy? How do screens and interfaces shape our understanding of others and ourselves? Contemporary relationship structures also challenge traditional philosophical conceptions of love. Polyamory, maintaining loving relationships with multiple partners with everyone's knowledge and consent, questions whether exclusivity is essential to deep love. Some philosophers argue that possessiveness contradicts love's nature. If love means wanting another's good, why restrict their connections? Others contend that commitment to one person creates unique depth and stability. This debate connects to broader questions about whether love is fundamentally resource-limited, a zero-sum game where loving one person diminishes capacity for others, or expansive, where loving one person increases capacity for loving others. Finally, contemporary philosophers critique how consumer capitalism packages and sells love. Valentine's Day gifts, wedding industries, romantic films, all market particular visions of love tied to consumption. Philosophers like Eva Illouz argue that romantic love has become increasingly tied to market logic. We invest in relationships expecting returns, evaluate potential partners like products, and upgrade when better options appear. This commodification potentially transforms love from gift to transaction, from commitment to calculation. It raises critical questions about whether economic metaphors adequately capture love's essence and whether consumerism undermines love's transformative potential. As we conclude this journey through love's philosophical history, several themes emerge. First, love reveals something fundamental about human existence. Our capacity to deeply value others, to care about their welfare independent of our own, demonstrates something profound about consciousness and connection. Second, love challenges neat distinctions between self and other, reason and emotion, permanence and change. It operates at boundaries, creating connections across differences and integrating seemingly opposite aspects of experience. Third, love's philosophical significance extends beyond romantic relationships to encompass friendship, family bonds, and universal compassion. Each form reveals different dimensions of love's nature and possibilities. Finally, love remains philosophically significant because it's where our highest aspirations meet our deepest vulnerabilities. In love, we seek meaning, connection, and transcendence while risking rejection, loss, and suffering. As we navigate our own experiences of love, philosophical reflection offers valuable perspective. It reminds us that our personal struggles and joys connect to humanity's ongoing exploration of love's nature and significance. Thank you for joining me on this philosophical journey through love. I hope these reflections offer new perspectives on this most fundamental human experience, an experience that, despite centuries of philosophical inquiry, remains wonderfully, necessarily mysterious.